Hi, I'm Ferhan. I'm a research fellow in the Translational Materials Innovation Group in the School of Material Science and Engineering at NTU Singapore. Firstly, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to speak and talk about some non-technical aspects of my research journey. In particular, I'm going to talk about maintaining research momentum through networking. Not from a university administrator or faculty standpoint, but from a seasoned researcher's standpoint. So the perspective will be closer to the ground and more applicable to those working in the lab. Of note, the keyword here is momentum, which coincidentally ties in well with this year's NTU's 30th anniversary celebration, in which the tagline is celebrating 30 years of momentum.
Here is the general outline of the presentation. So even before we start to discuss about networking, I will first briefly share my research journey. I will then introduce the overall role of research, particularly academic research. And of course, academic research is synonymous with publications. So I will touch on that as well. I will then talk about the importance of networking, especially within the context of academic research, to get a picture of how networking paves the way for collaborations that increase the research productivity. I will also talk a bit about the research landscape in Singapore, identifying networking opportunities, maintaining research networks, and how this will contribute to sustaining research momentum. This is my research journey. I started doing research way back when I was still an undergraduate. To be precise, it was during the time when I did my research internship at A-Star's Institute of Microelectronics in the year 2008. So at that time, I worked on a nucleic acid biosensor based on the growth of silver nanoparticles across interdigitated electrodes. I continued to do another internship at A-Star's Institute of Bioengineering and Nanotechnology, and I worked on glucose biosensors. It involved a lot of electrochemistry work, which was geared towards endpoint detection. Taken together, this internships taught me a lot of biosensor basics, both in terms of design and application. I then continued to do my PhD and remain committed to biosensor development. In this case, I went deeper into the nanomaterials development aspect of biosensors. I did a lot of polymer chemistry and organic synthesis to grow polymer brushes for the prevention of protein fouling. At the same time, I was also working on the synthesis of noble metal nanostructures such as gold nanorods, gold triangular nanoplates for plasmonic sensing applications. And then continued to combine these two parts of my research to create non-fouling nanoparticle polymer composites for the purpose of designing solid phase colorimetric sensors. After I graduated, I still remained committed to biosensor development. Plus, on top of that, nanoplasmonic sensing. I went on to do my postdoctoral work, and this time my research transitioned to exploring the use of nanoplasmonic sensors for, for biointerfacial science applications. In particular, I started looking into how the high surface sensitivity of nanoplasmonic sensors can be used to study biomolecular interactions at the lipid membrane. To do that, I started to do a lot of biomimetic integration, and moving forward, I'm now focusing on biomedical innovation by leveraging the strengths and advantages of nanoplasmonic sensing for translational science applications in the development of antimicrobial therapeutics as well as for endpoint detection. So, throughout this journey, I have realized the importance of networking to deliver high quality research outputs in a timely and efficient manner. Before we talk about networking in research, it is important to first understand the role of research. Why exactly do we do research? And what is involved in research? What are the important components within the research process? So let's first look at the global role of research. As you can see, it all starts with a problem or a societal need that we need to solve or provide a solution. For example, protein fouling is a problem for biosensing, and therefore research is conducted to try to eliminate it to produce better performing biosensors. Likewise, COVID 19 is a problem, creating a pandemic, and the research is therefore needed and is conducted to come up with drugs and vaccines. And to come up with a novel product or solution, research is involved not only in the sciences, but also in the engineering, business, and regulatory departments as well. Typically, fundamental and applied science research is conducted in academia, and research in the applied sciences, engineering, and business is conducted in the industry. And overseeing all this are the relevant government agencies, which provides guidelines and regulates how research is being conducted. So how is the research conducted then? While we have seen a linear relationship or linear rule in which research takes us from problem to solution, the people involved in the process are more connected. Here, let's look at the triple helix model of innovation, which was developed and popularized by Henry Etzkowitz and widely adopted by universities, industries, and governments worldwide, including NTU. It shows the relationship between academia, government, and industry, in which academia is typically focused on basic or early stage research and development, workforce education and upskilling, and technology incubation. The industry is mainly responsible for product and service development, such as scaling up laboratory processes, providing engineering solutions, and eventually delivering the service or product innovation to the consumers. The government is responsible for policy formulation, providing guidelines and regulations, as well as innovation support. What is important here is we can see that there are regions of overlaps between these three organizational bodies, which signifies that they don't exist as silos, but rather operate hand in hand to deliver innovation to the society. In other words, the element of communication becomes key and networking facilitates communication. So networking is definitely important and helpful even if you are in academia. Now let's look at how academic research has evolved over the years. By taking science and technology as an example here. In the olden days, or I would say some decades ago, we used to only hear the word multidisciplinary. What does it actually mean when we say multidisciplinary research? It means the research involves multiple disciplines. For example, here it involves physics, it involves chemistry, it involves engineering, it involves biology, it involves multiple disciplines, but each discipline remains separated. You do your work, I do mine. At the end of the day, let's put it together. There are no overlaps between two or more disciplines, no close interactions. The respective disciplines essentially exist in silos. And then we started to hear the word interdisciplinary. What does it mean? So it means that two or more disciplines start to interact more closely, and this could result in the formation of subdisciplines. For example, we see physical chemistry at the interface of physics and chemistry, biochemistry between biology and chemistry, biomedical engineering between biology and engineering, and so on and so forth. For this to happen, there must be some kind of intimate interaction between two or more disciplines. Again, the element of communication is key and networking becomes important. Most recently, the term we usually hear is transdisciplinary or cross-disciplinary, in which the major disciplines and sub-disciplines merge further, forcing more interactions across various nodes, resulting in the formation of derivative disciplines. For example, here we have mechanochemistry between mechanical engineering and physical chemistry, biochemical engineering between biochemistry and biomedical engineering, so on and so forth. From here, we can see that now, in this day, even basic research requires a highly concerted effort between research practitioners from various disciplines and sub-disciplines, and networking therefore becomes even more crucial for survival in research. The scientific method. So, from a micro perspective or laboratory researcher standpoint, research is performed by first defining the problem statement, then coming up with a hypothesis, performing the experimental design, conducting the actual experiment, and collecting the data, analyzing the data, and finally reaching the conclusion. I believe everyone, the audience, is familiar with this method. But the question to ask here is whether the scientific method can be achieved alone. In other words, can you do all these steps by yourself? The answer to that is probably yes, but it is better if you have a network of other researchers who can support and help you with one or more steps in performing the scientific method. A network to discuss and refine your problem statement and hypothesis, streamline your experimental design, increase efficiency in data collection and analysis, and be more critical of your conclusions. If we look further into the details of the scientific method, we can break the process into 3 stages: the planning, experimentation, and analysis stages. Within each stage, we can see that there are many checkpoints. So you begin with making an observation of a certain problem, and then ask a question, and start to do some background research. You go through a couple of iterations, going back and forth between asking the question and doing your background research. Then you construct a hypothesis. You move on to the experimentation phase, where you test your hypothesis, see whether your experimental procedure, which is based on your experimental design, is working or not. If not, you need to perform some troubleshooting, and you may need to iterate a few cycles before you eventually get everything working. Only after your experimental procedures are working fine will you get some results for you to analyze and draw your conclusions. If your conclusions are not aligned with your initial hypothesis, you will have to go back to constructing your hypothesis, repeat the experimentation and analysis process again. And in any case, whether or not your final conclusions align with your hypothesis, you will proceed to report your findings. So there are a lot of stages, some of which require a couple of iterations. What this means is there are a lot of opportunities whereby having a research network can help you navigate through this process more smoothly. Reduce the number of iterations you need to perform and achieve your goals more efficiently. Your network, depending on their respective expertise, can actually come into the picture and play a part, help you out in more than one stage in the process. For example, if they are a seasoned researcher in a particular field, they may provide you insights into background research that have been done before, hence saving you time in the planning phase. If they have computational resources, for example, they may be in a better position to analyze your data more quickly and more accurately, and so on. Of course, at the end of your research efforts, at the end of your experiments, you will eventually publish your work somewhere. Research publications are undoubtedly an integral part of research, especially within the context of academic research. We publish to communicate our research results and conclusions, reinforce open scientific inquiry, increase visibility of our research, and demonstrate relevance of our research, and drive research innovation. The big question here is it possible today to conduct experimental based research and publish without any network? I'm not referring to theoretical or computational work here, but just conventional experimental lab-based research. So in the early years of my graduate study, when I have not built that much of a research network, I sought to somewhat challenge myself to publish a paper without any network, just me and my supervisor. It was a naive challenge, but nonetheless, the question I asked myself was it practical and doable? The problem I sought to address at that time was the difficulty in loading nanoparticles into polymer brushes. So I went on and I did almost everything by myself. I purchased raw materials, synthesized gold nanoparticles from scratch. Back then, commercial nanoparticles were not so popular. I synthesized the polymer brushes. I did DLS, zeta potential, UVs measurements, SEM, AFM, all by myself. I analyzed the data, plotted the graphs, made the figures, drew the schematics, and wrote the entire paper. My supervisor gave the pointers and provided the necessary guidance and funding, of course, but other than that, it was pretty much all on me. Then we went on to submit the work to the now defunct GMC. This was before they split to the GMC A, B, and C. And fortunately, it got accepted. The total time it took from conceptualization to completion of the project, not paper acceptance, but completion of the project, was 8 months. 7 years on, I was working on a project of a relatively same scale, I would say, but with some added application. This time it involved a network of researchers that worked together to fulfill different aspects of the research work. And the time it took from conceptualization to completion was only 4.5 months, which I thought was really incredible. So, back to the question, to answer the question, is it possible to conduct a research and publish without any network? Perhaps the short answer is yes, but definitely not the best way to do it. And definitely not the way to do it if you are going to do research for the long term. There's no way that you will be able to sustain the momentum if you do it all by yourself in an isolated fashion. So, networking is definitely important, both in the planning stage as well as in the experimentation stage. In the planning stage, it helps you stay up to date within and beyond your research discipline. It helps you keep abreast with latest societal needs, which will help you to do more impactful research, research that will solve real problems, research that addresses problems the society yearns for you to solve. It will also help you discover new research frontiers. And in the experimentation stage, it will pave the way for you to explore research collaboration opportunities, maintain high research quality and productivity, and most important of all, ensure that you remain at the cutting edge. So if you're doing research for a long time, it is similar to like running a marathon. You always want to maintain your momentum and remain at the front. So you need to be able to identify that cutting edge and always be there, not fall behind. So networking is definitely important. Networking helps you form research partnerships and collaborations. Basically, the more people you know, the more people you are connected to, the higher chances of getting together and working together. This will help to enhance research efficiency by working in teams, establish a collective knowledge base for you to check that you are indeed on the right track, help you assess whether you are at the cutting edge, share and grow ideas when you come together and discuss problem statements and hypotheses. Broaden research horizons when you reach out to people from disciplines and fields which are not directly related to yours. And this will drive and promote research innovation. So, Networking helps you form research collaborations, and research collaborations in turn enhance research efficiency. This is achieved through three main aspects. Number one, the sharing of resources. As we have established, research these days are transdisciplinary, and because of that, it becomes resource intensive. Research collaborations allow us to have access to the tools and instruments that otherwise are beyond our reach. Some common examples are advanced or specialized characterization tools, advanced nanofabrication facilities, computational tools, clinical samples, and access to higher biosafety level labs, BSL 2 and 3, for example. Research collaborations also allow us to combine expertise. Experimental, theoretical, computational researchers, they can come together to produce a more comprehensive work. You can also benefit from quality research contributions, both in the form of experimental data analysis or suggestions and feedbacks that are provided by experts from various disciplines. Most importantly, you don't have to do everything all by yourself, which does not make sense for transdisciplinary research. Because collaborations allow research tasks to be distributed. This allows efficient use of manpower resources, promote high level of dedication in performing a particular designated task, as well as ensure accountability. Taken together, research collaborations streamline the research process, which lead to high quality and timely research and innovation output. Of course, there are bound to be problems in collaborations, but as a rule of thumb, an effective and fruitful collaboration should always produce some greater than the parts, and teamwork and team spirit is always key. Collaborations also help to generate new ideas or bring core ideas to maturity. It starts with establishing common knowledge base by bringing together existing knowledge from different fields and disciplines, and then working on growing ideas based on that body of knowledge. This is done through active and highly focused discussions when addressing problem statement associated with the project, through brainstorming sessions, which opens up new perspectives, promote new ideas, and even introduce new methods of experimentation and analysis. Collaborations also help to broaden research horizons. It is common that we have an immediate network of established partners and collaborators, the people we know very well, the people we are comfortable working with, and those that we always continually engage. But once in a while, you also reach out or get introduced to others within an extended research network. In doing so, you may be introduced to research topics that are new to you, those that can inspire fresh and unique collaboration. Expanding your network lets you assess the boundaries of your current research and provides excellent opportunity to discover new frontiers beyond these boundaries. And this may even cut across multiple fields, disciplines, and can lead to the establishment of new research topics subjects, and research teams. How do we establish research networks? In general, I always believe that the most important thing to do, even before starting to network and identifying potential collaborators, is to have a clear research objective, both in the near as well as the long term. You need to know exactly what you want to do in the next 2 to 3 as well as 5 to 10 years. Of course, a research landscape can change and will change. You may have to adjust your research objectives accordingly as you move along. But you need to have a well defined baseline. Based on that, you need to keep up with current research trends and have your plan Bs and plan Cs ready should there be a change in the overall research landscape. And to do that, you need to have a clear understanding and appreciation of your research field. And by doing that, you can identify key players in your field, key influencers, game changers, research groups that produce quality work, and those that are setting the trends. At the same time, you also need to identify a room for research growth and I would say new pastures. And based on these assessments, you can carefully plan out and reach out to the right people and slowly establish your research networks. Besides those general guidelines, we also need to consider and understand certain aspects of research that may be unique to a certain locality. For example, it is important to acknowledge the role and weight of academic research in Singapore, which may vary slightly from other parts of the world, such as in the US, Europe, or even East Asia. It is also imperative to understand how academic research is conducted in Singapore, especially in terms of forming collaborations and working across different organizations, which may include those in the industry and government organizations. More importantly, it is crucial to appreciate the dynamic research landscape in Singapore. To understand that research direction in Singapore is largely enterprise driven, I would say, and can be fast changing. At the same time, you also need to know that Singapore is well connected to the rest of the world, and research conducted here often involves significant amount of international collaborations. Hence, there is a need to identify suitable research partners that are not only based in Singapore, but also in other parts of the world. Now, let's take a look at the general research landscape in Singapore. As I mentioned, the research landscape here is very vibrant, highly dynamic, with the R&D strategy, which is charted out by the Ministry of Trade and Industry, or MTI, spanning across research, innovation, and enterprise, or in short, RIE. In fact, I think it was only in 2010 that the RIE concept was formed. So, under this concept, the research direction is based on 5 year blueprints called the RIE plan. So, the RIE 2015 and RIE 2020 plans included translation, commercialization, and innovation strategies to tap on the growing pipeline of promising research outputs and support enterprises. So the latest RIE plan, which is RIE 2025, is organized along four strategic domains, namely manufacturing, trade, and connectivity, human health and potential, urban solutions and sustainability, as well as smart nation and digital economy. The research involves close interactions between the government, academia and industry, and main agencies in government include Ministry of Trade and Industry, which is responsible in coming up with the 5-year blueprints, the National Research Foundation, which is under the Prime Minister's office, which is responsible for policy formulation and funding based on the RIE plan, as well as the Agency for Science, Technology and Research, or ASTAR. Academic research mainly involves the 6 universities, with NTU, NUS, SUTD, and SIT having each a role to play in science, engineering, and technology research, and the 5 polytechnics, namely SP, TP, NP, and YP, and RP. Industry, of course, involves MNCs, SMEs, as well as a growing number of local startups. So, after familiarizing with the research landscape here, we can sort of identify various nodes that can provide networking opportunities. Locally and within academia, of course, the easiest way to start networking is through your immediate peers and colleagues, those who are within your own research groups. Then, across your division, department, school, and your connections outside your own university. Your networks can be from within your field as well as beyond your field, of course. And apart from those in academia, you will also find opportunities to engage and connect with industry partners as well as government agencies, for example, regulatory agencies. On top of that, you will also find, collaboration opportunities with those overseas. So, after forming the networks, it is also equally important to maintain these networks and not lose connections over time. Maintaining research networks involve the number of steps. I think, firstly, it is always important to ensure positive outcomes from collaborations. A research collaboration is essentially valuable to all parties involved, and no party would want to lose more than what they gain from collaboration. Research efforts should therefore be reciprocated between the parties involved and always create win-win situations so that all parties will gain from the collaboration and find some value addition. It is also important to be honest and sincere in your contributions, to provide constructive suggestions and feedback so that there will always be value addition to the network in terms of knowledge and how research is being conducted in general. Always touch base and continually communicate and engage with your network and find opportunities to reconnect. All collaborators doesn't mean that they cannot provide new insights. They will always still be able to provide new insights and inject new ideas and so on. So we can start to see here, how strong research networks contribute to sustained research momentum. In general, strong research networks create new research opportunities, increase research productivity, introduce fresh perspectives, and promote creativity and innovation. Personally, I think the ability to create new research opportunities and create fresh perspectives are the more important aspects of networking, I would say, those that will ensure we remain driven for research. And of course, one other thing that is not mentioned here in the slide is that having a strong research network is also beneficial in in the sense that it provides some degree of flexibility and allows you to adapt better to changes in the research landscape, since you are more exposed uh, to a larger network outside of your own field, and be more aware as you gain more insights from them. So let's revisit my research journey, which I showed at the start, and this time treat it as a quick sort of case study to see how networking has helped me sustain my research momentum from, I would say, 2008 up till now. If you look at the colorful arrows associated with my research activities, you can see that the number of arrows actually started to increase during the transition from postgraduate to the postdoctoral phase of my research journey, meaning I became involved in more research activities, covering more topics within the research field than before. This is largely owing to an increased research productivity, I would say, arising from the networking opportunities and the formation of collaborations that became available to me when I joined the group of Professor Cho. At the time, the group itself comprised of researchers from more than 15 countries, which I thought was incredibly amazing. In particular, in the sense that I gained a lot of new insights of my own field as well as those other fields in the periphery. Of course, Professor Cho himself has an extensive network of world renowned research practitioners and experts from all over the world that has clearly benefited all the researchers in his group, including myself. So, in summary, we see that today's research landscape is undoubtedly highly dynamic and transdisciplinary. We can agree on that unanimously, I guess. And research networking promotes partnerships and collaborations, which increases research productivity. Expanding networks can lead to new research frontiers that cut across multiple fields and disciplines, and new networks can lead to the establishment of new research topics, subjects, and research teams. And we can also relate and see how strong research networks help sustain research momentum, particularly through creation of new research opportunities and introduction of fresh perspectives. So that is all for my presentation. Thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at the email address here. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon and stay safe.